you know, I think, again, by design, the media's job was to pretty much discredit us to the best of their ability.
And, I mean, and you can also argue there was a lot of stuff seeded into the movement from day one. Like Gumby brought up Terry Mason's book. I mean,
Right.
just the idea
Which
that
was translated into 29 different languages, I think.
yeah, and just to make it to deduce it all down, and like not even talking about the buildings or these wackier theories, but like even in David Ray Griffin's books, he's talking about how all the family's voices on those phone calls could have been done through voice morphing technology and things like that. And when you really boil it down, it's like that is a really dicey place to go, and does make you look crazy to suggest that all of that was fake. And
Well,
so that
to
and
me,
that was there from day one. I mean, I remember people
yeah,
talking.
to me, it's no different than what Alex Jones did to the Sandy Hook families. By saying they were never killed, they were crisis actors, whatever the hell he was saying. When you say that the phone calls are fake, you're essentially taking a shot at the family members who may very well have who received those phone calls. I don't even want to go down the path that the phone calls were fake because I think they were real. And the guy, Jesse Ventura, had a show, Conspiracy Theory or something, and he had a guy on who was an expert on, voice morphing, if that's what you want to call it. And he had him on to show that you could do voice morphing, but he didn't actually realize why Jesse had him on to make the argument that on 9/11 it could have happened. When he found out about it, he was furious, the expert that he had on. And he said that it could never, ever be done in real time. So, and again, David Ray Griffin continually promoted voice morphing, when he could see that I don't understand. None of the leaders of the 9/11 truth movement, which were the authors and the speakers and such, ever gave direction to the people of the 9/11 truth movement on how best to reach people, on what not to focus on trying to stay away from the infighting. And as a result, people like me and other experienced people in the movement came out with something called the 2008 Declaration, which is available at truthmove.org. And I would still show people that today on how, the best ways to do this, to try and do this. Because the leaders, so-called leaders, weren't doing that. They were active participants in it.
Well, you mentioned one of the big personalities who I think kind of looms large over the truth movement and how it's perceived by the public, which is Alex Jones. And I think Robbie maybe has some more direct experience with being an Alex Jones listener and following that path for a little bit. And John maybe has more of the antagonistic point of view from that early stage. So I'm wondering how Alex, I mean, I went back and listened to it. Alex Jones was on the air live on 9/11 talking about in real time, basically developing kind of spitballing theories. Joe Rogan calls in at one point and they have a whole conversation about, it basically just spitballing theories in real time. And behold the pale horse, but his name is escaping me right now. He was on the air at the same time, taking pot shots at Alex Jones while also doing his own spitballing theories on 9/11. Yeah. Yes, of course. Yeah, William Cooper. So, but anyway, I'm just curious about, because Alex Jones and Bill Cooper, of course, dies, maybe 2 months after 9/11, something like that. And so the reins for that kind of thing get passed on to Alex Jones by default because, he's on the radio. So I'm just wondering how Alex Jones, for the both of you, kind of plays into how the truth movement developed and how it got maybe discredited in a lot of people's eyes.
Do you want me to go first or Robbie?
Sure, yeah, you can go first, John.
Well, there were organizations like Media Matters, which was supposed to be monitoring the media, which is bad and so forth, that would portray him as the leader of the 9/11 truth movement. To help discredit us. And they would have him on, the media would have him on constantly and portray him and portray all of us as if we were no different than he was. And our signs used to say, support the 9/11 family members, ask questions, demand answers, stop the 9/11 cover up. And then they started to say things like, New World Order, 9/11 was an inside job. and I think Alex had a lot to do with that. There was a time when I used to give him some slack because he managed to get the guests on his show. And if you remember, he would do his absolute best to get them to say the magic words. 9/11 was an inside job. And, when he did that, suddenly that became an article on his website. Such and a person says 9/11 was an inside job. But yeah, no, there were two camps at one time. There was the Rupert camp and the Alex Jones camp, and I was very much part of the Rupert camp, even though Mike and I disagreed on a couple of things. But go ahead, Robbie. Tell us about Alex Jones and how he just helped to discredit the movement.
Well, so I remember first getting into Alex Jones sometime around the time of that beheading hoax video that I made. And I remember it just sort of, at first, like I remember thinking, okay, a lot of the stuff, coming off his website and his radio show is probably disinfo or misinfo, but he seems, like I was really enticed by sort of his aggressive, and he would, his aggressive attitude and how he would project himself as being